Speculators were blamed for driving energy prices crazy in 2008, and President Obama says now is the time to stop them for good. Some Democrats have new concerns about the Senate climate bill, the exception one senator wants included in any new offshore drilling plan. And the heads of some of the largest coal companies in the country testify before Congress about safety and the future of their industry.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. The administration says enough talk. It's time to act on derivatives reform. President Obama is marshaling Democrats and reaching out to Republicans to finally enact a bill regulating the trillion-dollar private market, including those energy derivatives blamed for sending oil prices to all-time highs and 10-year lows, all in 6 months during 2008.
I think all of us recognize that we cannot have a circumstance in which a meltdown in the financial sector once again puts the entire economy in peril. And that if there's one lesson that we've learned, it's that a unfettered market where people are taking huge risks and expecting taxpayers to bail them out when things go sour is simply not acceptable.
We're going to make sure we have a comprehensive bill that brings derivatives out of the dark, ends too big to fail, and gives consumers and investors basic protection against abuse, against predation. There's been a lot of movement on consumer, as you've seen. Focus is now shifting to the really important but very complicated areas of derivatives and too big to fail. But I think there, too, we've taken a lot of ideas from the other side of the aisle, and I think we've got a very strong package of reforms, and I think we're very close to something that we could stand up and say with pride is going to be a good and strong bill, prevent us from ever seeing this kind of crisis again.
Now, Geithner insisted that Democrats and Republicans have been meeting on reform and negotiating for months. He says many Republican ideas are incorporated in pending legislation, but so far Republican leaders are not biting. After Obama met today with leaders from both parties on the reform, Republicans said the pending Senate bill wouldn't reform the system, it would just institutionalize Wall Street bailouts. Well, as much as that derivatives bill could impact the commodities markets, the Senate's real game changer for the energy sector is the upcoming climate bill. Co-authors John Kerry, Lindsey Graham, and Joe Lieberman are now meeting with fellow senators and private industry reps in advance of the release expected next week. In the scramble for 60 votes, the issue of offshore exploration is proving especially divisive. While allowing new OCS production is a draw for lots of Republicans, some Democrats are expressing concern. Democrats who would otherwise support the climate bill. Among them, both of New Jersey's senators. Today, Clean Sky's Tyler Suiters talked with Frank Lautenberg about his objections.
We don't want to take the pressure off of looking for alternative, renewable sources. And this, in my view, is an invitation to abandon that if we continue to do drilling in places that shouldn't have it.
Senator, one follow-up, if I may. Do you feel that your voice is being heard from Senators Kerry, Graham, and Lieberman on this issue?
Well, they know my view, and we'll continue to work with them.
2 weeks ago, President Obama unveiled his new offshore exploration proposal. That plan does not open any waters off of the coast of Lautenberg's home state of New Jersey to new drilling. Oversight of the coal mine where 29 men were killed in an explosion last week could have been stepped up last year if not for a computer error. Labor Secretary Hilda Solis says Massey's Upper Big Branch mine should have received a warning letter about a possible pattern of violations, but some were logged under a flawed program used since 2007. Solis says finding the glitch wouldn't have prevented the tragedy and that Massey did reduce the number of serious violations, but it affected what was provided to the public. Meanwhile, the investigation into the cause of the explosion has again been hampered by a buildup of explosive methane gas. Officials believe high methane levels may have led to the blast, and the search for possible survivors was halted several times when the gas reached dangerous levels. And the safety of miners topped a congressional hearing today. Top coal CEOs appeared before lawmakers, stressing safety is their top priority. Massey Energy CEO Don Blankenship did not appear, but other top industry officials did testify. The hearing was originally called to take a look at the role of coal as the U.S. moves to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The coal CEOs called called on lawmakers to pass energy legislation allowing for the building of new, more efficient coal-fired power plants, and asked for more funds to be allocated for carbon capture technology. The coal officials said they were willing to work with Congress to avoid being regulated by EPA.
The EPA's approach on this, I think, will create unintended consequences that are unimaginable as it works through this economy. And we are focused very much on working with Congress to make sure that doesn't happen.
Lawsuits by states trying to stop the government from abandoning Yucca Mountain as a nuclear waste repository keep on piling up. Washington has joined the fight now to keep Yucca as an option. Waste and spent nuclear fuel from the Northwest's only commercial nuclear plant had long been intended to go to Yucca. DOE has said the site is no longer considered an option for radioactive waste storage. Last week, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission put licensing proceedings for Yucca Mountain on hold until the court cases are resolved. The captain of a Chinese coal ship that ran aground on Australia's Great Barrier Reef is under arrest. Australian police arrested the captain and senior officer of the Shenning 1 today and charged them with damaging the Great Barrier Reef. The accident on April 3rd leaked up to 3 tons of fuel oil and tore a 2-mile-long gash in the reef and may have smeared coral with toxic paint that could prevent marine life from growing back. Adam Nicholson, maritime safety spokesman for the state of Queensland, said most of the oil was dispersed by a chemical spray and did little or no damage to the reef itself, but officials believe some of it is now washing up on beaches of a wildlife sanctuary. Even in the best case scenario, experts predict that it'll take up to 20 years for nature to repair the damage. As tax day approaches for millions of Americans, House lawmakers are trying to find out whether tax incentives for energy companies really do spur clean energy and grow the economy. The House Ways and Means Committee looked into that issue today, hearing from several panels of witnesses. Energy Secretary Stephen Chu's top advisor, Matt Rogers, said $22 billion in manufacturing tax credits in last year's stimulus package were so successful and so oversubscribed, President Obama is asking for another $5 billion to expand the program. Also testifying, longtime oil and natural gas producer T. Boone Pickens, who urged the panel to approve legislation to encourage the development of natural gas vehicles. We'll have more from the hearing, what Pickens had to say, coming up on Clean Skies Sunday. Energy ministers from across the Western Hemisphere will be in Washington over the next 2 days talking energy and climate. This is the first plenary of the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas. This was started by President Obama a year ago. Along with ministers, that'll draw business leaders and advocacy organizations from 32 countries to talk about topics like energy efficiency, renewables, and getting clean electricity to those who don't have it. The State Department says many nations already have initiatives underway, and this conference is aimed at spurring more.
This is not a big assistance program. Brazil is a big economy. Colombia is a big economy. Argentina is a big economy. People doing business there want to build in cost savings into their business plans. This is about showing them what's available, showing them what other countries have done, showing them what other companies have done, and letting the companies talk to the other businesses there and let them make the deal.
The meeting is hosted by Energy Secretary Stephen Chu and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will give the keynote. This kicks off tomorrow at the Inter-American Development Bank. Let's take a look now at some energy goings on around the Beltway tomorrow. 8:30, EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson delivers remarks at EPA's Coming Together for Clean Water Conference. That's at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. Starting at 9, the National Petrochemical and Refiners Association continues its Renewable Fuel Standard 2 workshop at the Sheraton National Hotel in Arlington. 10 a.m., the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies and the National Latino Coalition on Climate Change have a briefing on new polls and analyses of attitudes toward climate change among African American and Latino voters. That's at the Capitol Visitor Center. That is the Energy Report. We'll see you again tomorrow with your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming on Clean Skies News, you can find us at contact@cleanskies.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook too. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, good night.